Unable to find root device on a fresh ArchLinux install. I have installed the latest version of ArchLinux, June 1, 2014, on a MacBook Pro 8, 15-inch, if that matters regarding hardware, dual booting with OS X following the instructions in the official install guide. However, when try and reboot into the newly installed system, it drops me into a recovery shell. I removed the UUID because I didn't want to type it out, but it is the same as the one given to me by Bookid, from the install disk, for the partition ArchLinux is installed on. Other online sources suggest this is due to an outdated pacman, udev, file system or Linux package. However, they describe this problem only after a kernel update from a working system, not a fresh install. I force reinstalled these packages from the ArchCRUD environment while booted to the install disk, but that did not change the situation. Instead, a little bit of experimentation with my grub.cfg shows that whatever is complained about is the root parameter to the Linux command selecting what Linus file to use. Indeed, changing root equals UUID equals to root equals label equals ArchLinux or root equals /dev/sda8, both describe where ArchLinux is installed, and I have certainly used the second version successfully before with another distribution, gives unable to find root device label equals ArchLinux and unable to find root device /dev/sda8, respectively. Furthermore, grub seems to be able to find the partition by UUID. Only the Linux kernel complains about it not being found, as the initial RAM disk is properly loaded, i.e. this is not a grub error as described here, but rather a Linux error. As a side note, the recovery shell is severely limited, and standard output does not appear to work properly. Nevertheless, ls works, and listing files shows a basic, temporary, file system, but all disk devices appear to be missing from /dev. However, I don't know if this is part of the error or not. This is similar, but not the same as Linux doesn't find root file system when booting, as the partition was extension 4 from the beginning. Also not exactly the same, but maybe relevant is unable to boot ArchLinux on MacBook Pro 7.1, drops to recovery shell, however, it drops into a ramped shell instead of a root shell and the error messages differ.
Instead of booting with the normal image, I used the fallback version and managed to boot into the system. As it turns out, Linux could not detect any drives due to the block Connectio hook, responsible for blocked devices, missing from the default image. This was due to it being placed after autodetect in /etc/connectio.conf. To fix this, the hooks equals ... line in that file needs to be changed so that block comes before autodetect. Before the fix. After the fix. Running Connectio p Linux to regenerate the AnyTramps then fix the problem permanently.
I ran into a similar issue but with a different setup. I'm using ArchLinux in a virtual machine and my bootloader is SysLinux. I used your trick on switching the kernel hooks order, but I still ended up in a root shell. What fixed the issue for me was changing the append line in my syslinux.cfg from 2. You can easily append the partuid to the syslinux.cfg by using a command like bookid grep *1 awk, print $7, boot syslinux.cfg assuming your root partition is dev *1. Afterwards you can use your favorite text editor to move the line to the appropriate space. Edit. I just recognized that the column number in the small awk script may vary, so better have a look at the output before piping it into syslinux.cfg.
I had the same issue with my Dell XPS 15, 2021. I resolved it by changing the SATA/NME operation setting in the BIOS from RAID onto OSI/NME. I tackled with the same error when I installed Arch to the flash drive. I looked into script and found solution for that case. Mount required partition when you are in ini-trumps. Mount /dev/sdx8/new_root/. Press Ctrl+D to boot into Linux. Edit /etc/default/grub, add root delay equals 90 to Linux command line, grub_line_Linux equals a root delay equals 90. Update grub, gram config o/boot/grub/grub.cfg.
If you want to support the channel, please consider subscribing.